Namaskar and welcome to another episode of the Professor Mahesh podcast. Happy New Year 2026 to all of you. I wish you all a happy, healthy, and prosperous year ahead. And I also wish that the year 2025 has been a very rewarding and satisfying year for all of you, as it has been for us here at the Professor Mahesh podcast. Our team is super happy that we have the love and embrace of all of you audience members. We have now reached over 220,000 subscribers in just 7 months. Several million viewers have benefited from these episodes, and nothing can be more thrilling for us than all of you choosing to be more informed in your own decision making process. Thank you to each and every one of you for stepping up and making this a part of your week. At a cadence, we've been releasing one new episode every Thursday evening at 5 o'clock, and you have queued up to watch these episodes. Nothing can be more gratifying for us here at the Professor Mahesh podcast team than to watch the embrace that happens as soon as it is released when our videos premiere. Over the last 7 months, we have walked the line with dozens of experts talking about their professions, talking about their engineering and science streams, talking about what is exciting in their lines of work. From agricultural engineering, which was our very first episode with Professor Madhura Swaminathan, then AI with Professor Ravindran. We walked the line with electrical engineering with Professor Bhaskar Ramurthy, civil engineering, sciences like chemistry, math, physics. We've talked about the world of simulations. We've talked about mechanical engineering. We've talked about chemical engineering, material science, and more recently, even sustainability. In all of these conversations, there was one unifying message that there are many different exciting lines of thought, many different careers for you to explore in the next decade or two. In today's episode, I thought we will use this opportunity to sort of take a bird's eye view of all of the 30 odd episodes and see what are the unifying messages, what are the key takeaways going beyond each profession. We will look at 5 such messages today, and at the end of this episode, we will also write down ways by which you can draft your 2026 New Year resolutions to keep in line with these 5 key takeaways. The first takeaway: education does not stop with a college degree. Education hardly stops with a college degree. A college degree, if any, is just the beginning of good education. In an age-old conversation from the Mahabharata, there is a beautiful chapter where Sanata Sujata Rishi has a conversation with Raja Dhritarashtra. Dhritarashtra in this conversation asks, what does education look like? And he says, Sanat Sujata says, Acharyat padamadhatte, padam sishyaha swamedhaya, padam sabbrahmacharibhyaha, padam kalakramenacha. Let us parse this. Padam in Sanskrit means 1/4. Acharyat padam adhatte. 1/4 of your total education comes from your teachers. Padam sishyaha swamedhaya. 1/4 comes from your own learning, a student's own student-initiated learning. Padam sabbrahmacharibhyaha. 1/4 comes from your fellow students teaching you. You can imagine them as team projects where you learn from each other, peer learning as we call it today. And the last 1/4, padam kalakramenacha. The remaining 1/4 only comes with the passage of time, You can think of this as internship. You can think of this as work experience or job experience. We cannot therefore take the 1/4 that comes from our colleges, our universities, our teachers, which you may bucket under teacher initiated learning, as hardly the end of education. There is another 3/4 to gain from team projects, from your own self learning, and from work experience. This is the main paradigm. Learning hardly stops with college. It barely starts, if any. Now, what does then a first job look like? What should the first job look like? Naturally, you should be asking this question. The first job should be all about continuing that learning process. The single focus of each and every one of you when you go to evaluate your first job should not be about the first month's paycheck or the first year's paycheck. That is hardly important. The only important thing you should ask this future employer, what will I learn that I don't already know? I really don't mind what the paycheck will be as long as it is reasonable. You can't be grossly underselling your skill set, but as long as it is reasonable, you are able to live a decent life. Ask this one question of every employer in your first job interview. What will I learn that I don't already know? If that learning process continues, that what you learn in the first year or 2 years is imagine you are sort of continuing your education into a little more of an applied domain, except somebody is paying you rather than you paying a tuition like you did when you were in college. So this idea of continuing education to the point where you are actually seeing a weekly improvement in your knowledge base. Think of this, the time scale on which you should really see something changing is week by week, not on a much, much longer time scale. On a week by week, you should be thinking, did I learn something new this week that I didn't know last week? If you focus on the learning in the first 2, maybe 3 years, you will see a massive shift in your own approach to work and later on your own approach to a profession broadly, and financially you will also be rewarded. The more you learn, the more valuable you will become to your industry and to your society. A lot of our guests in the course of the last 7 months have made this point. Learning while working is the single biggest contributor to your value addition later on. The second part that is extremely important is patience. Your first job is hardly a start, we said. Remember, we are in for a marathon. A usual young student starts working at, say, between 20 to 25. They're going to be active in that profession till age 65, 60, 65 sometimes. 40-year-long journey. You have to try and think of a 40-year career, not about the first job or the first month's paycheck. Think of what you want this 40-year career to look like when it is done. If you can imagine that, you are more than halfway along the way of being an excellent planner. Think of what you want to do 10 years from now. What do you want to be known for? We all have a desire to be known for something. Find out what you want to be known for and work towards being known for that. So the second trait is patience. Patience, because being known for something or becoming good at something comes with consistent, persistent effort. It does not come on the scale of weeks or months. You learn on the scale of weeks or months, but becoming good at something takes years of work. There's a famous story about the swimmer Michael Phelps. His swim, the records that he has set happened in a matter of, a few minutes, 2 minutes. And Usain Bolt has run a sum total of less than 10 minutes in front of all of us on TV. Sum total, the entire time that he has run on camera for us to watch is less than 10 minutes because his records are on the order of 10 seconds or less. But that 10 minutes of TV time that put him in all our minds and hearts happened due to years of hard work. When you talk patience, what really is the meaning of patience when you're trying to understand a career, right? We have to keep learning on a weekly basis, but what accrues and what you want to be known for takes a much longer time. That is where patience comes in. When you go from what you learn in college to where that knowledge really is applied, especially say in a field where something going wrong could mean bad things for society, like accidents, etc. You really have to make sure that you understand the nuances of what could go wrong. Usually in college, we are good at teaching what could go right. So, this understanding of what could go wrong and what are all the ways in which something could go wrong and either preventing or mitigating the damage if something went wrong. This, because you are learning all of the so-called corner cases in which whatever you are going to design is going to be used. All these corner cases are, each corner case is unique in its own way, which means you have to spend the time to understand that particular instance where something could go wrong and you build in the necessary safety systems. These little added bodies of knowledge take a long time. Say you're a civil engineer. At the end of a 4-year undergraduate degree in civil engineering, you basically know what is the property of concrete, property of steel, and you know what it takes to design a bridge, the basic formula. But what if you have an overloading? What if there is a certain vibration that comes from some extraneous source? What if there is, a water under the bridge that starts to overflow? What would it do to the structure? What are all the different eventualities that a real bridge engineer needs to think of? Those corner cases take time. And that is what it takes. You have to understand all of this body of knowledge before you can be called a bridge designer. That is what you'll be known for when you get there. Once you become known as somebody, a bridge designer, railway steel bridge designer, or a multi-layer PCB designer for certain electronic systems, or a automotive exhaust system designer, or a electric or a motor vehicle electric control designer. Once you become known as a little bit of an expert in one of the subsystems, your own value to the company and to the society at large goes up rapidly. But until then, during this time when you are learning all these corner cases, your own salary is not going to go up very, very sharply. But once you become known for something and you've accrued the body of knowledge to say, I can actually do it, then your value starts to go up. So, you would have heard this idea of a hockey stick. A hockey stick, especially an ice hockey stick, is sort of flat, but it picks up sharply after a time, at some point. This sort of a hockey stick effect is what several of our guests have talked about. And think of all of the different ways by which you can engineer yourself to become known in one small area that you can then demand value when you get there. The third aspect for you to become successful in your own careers is focus on fundamentals. In college, this is the single most important thing you should do. Understanding fundamentals. Whichever discipline of engineering you are pursuing or science you are pursuing, there are a set of fundamentals that you are expected to know. Say if you are a chemical engineer, you should be able to draw up mass, momentum and energy balance. If you are a mechanical engineer, you should be able to estimate the stress states in members of a certain machine. If you are a civil engineer, you are expected to understand how environmental pollution basically happens, what are the different forms of pollution, and what are the different mitigation strategies that are at least known to us. So keep a focus on these fundamentals. These are usually a small set of domain specific core courses. Right? These are required whether you are in a science curriculum or in an engineering curriculum. There are a small set of core courses. Read them, reread them, read multiple textbooks, solve problems from the back of the book. Get these 4 or 5 basic courses involved in every discipline completely understood by you. Another amazing resource to help you in this understanding process are all the NPTEL courses that are out there. If you take, for example, my own discipline, fluid mechanics, which is part of either mechanical engineering, aerospace engineering, chemical engineering, or several other disciplines anymore, there are at least 2 to 3 foundations of fluid mechanics, undergraduate level courses that are already out there for you to learn from. Understand these concepts. How do you know whether you've understood the fundamentals? When I describe something to you, when I describe a phenomena, you should be able to visualize, imagine the whole phenomena like a video playing out. It could be an electrical circuit, it could be some dynamical behavior of an electrical circuit, in which case you should be able to visualize the activity in the circuit in the form of some graphical representation. So think of what it takes for you to understand your material, but you should be able to visualize. That is when you've understood the physics of the problem. Now, understanding the physics is only halfway there. A foundation, fundamentals involve the mathematics. When I say write out mass balance, momentum balance, and energy balance, these are actual laws of conservation. You should be able to write out that conservation law for your specific system. You should be able to write out, let's say you're dealing with some sort of an analog circuit, you should be able to write out a set of equations describing the basic functioning of that circuit. If you are an aerospace engineer, you should be able to write out the basic equations for, let's say, for some sort of a flight control problem that you may be solving. You know that you understood the math when you are able to solve a reasonably good number of the problems from the back of the chapter. For this part, understanding the fundamentals, it doesn't matter how old you are. It is best done when you are in college. Use all these resources, good textbooks, NPTEL courses, and all other online resources. Develop a good physical feel, good understanding of the process, and understand the math. This is the single biggest nugget of knowledge that will stay with you for your entire life. You could gain this knowledge in, say, mechanical engineering, but tomorrow you could be working in the world of finance. But trust me, this fundamental knowledge in any engineering or science discipline will come back to help you in every pursuit that you design for yourself. This may sound a little counterintuitive, but there is enough evidence. You will see again this repeated by multiple guests. Focus on the fundamentals. Everything else will fall in place later on. Fourth aspect of what it takes to succeed, to build a good career: develop, maintain, and sustain a network. You need to have a network of people around you to really continually enrich your knowledge base. The third part of the Sanat Sujatiya mantra, Padam sab brahmacharibhyaha, that 1/4 comes from your peers. It is very important to have a peer network. Peer network is just your classmates. So if you were, your classmates from 5th class are today somewhere, they're all as old as you are roughly, and they may be in different professions. Make a small effort to maintain this network. You will learn a lot from them. You will contribute a lot to this network. There is nothing more, no bigger asset for a human being in society today than a network. Again, multiple guests in all of the last 25, 30 conversations that I have had have emphasized the power of a network. We talked of the peer network, but there is one more network that you have to also build. That is a network of mentors. Having a good mentor who will give you unbiased, uncolored, unvarnished advice. Somebody who you can trust. Somebody who you implicitly trust is extremely important. Now, in this day and age, it's hard to find one individual for all situations and eventualities occupying that position of trust in our hearts and minds. It's difficult. What you therefore need is a small group of individuals, 4 or 5 of them. When I look back at my own personal life, I can imagine at least 4 or 5 individuals that helped me shape my thoughts. Not while I was in college, that's teachers. I'm talking mentors who shaped my thoughts long after I had graduated and gone out. I had excellent mentors in my first job, people who taught me a lot of things, very passionately though. And once I took my first academic position, there were people who taught me how to think scientifically, how to be a good scientist, professor. And when I came to other leadership positions, there were people from who I could learn various traits of leadership. This is both passive learning by observing and active learning through conversations. Have a small network of mentors. The peer network is as big as your peer network, as big as your classroom was. The mentor network is much smaller typically, but it's an extremely important network. I'm not at all suggesting that somehow the mentor network is above or more important than the peer network. Both are equally important. But what I want you to take away on this, the power of networking comes in 2 layers. Both are equally important. This is going to be an amazing enabler for you to grow in an ever-changing world. The last and the 5th point I want you to bear in mind as what it takes to succeed is passion for what you do. Whatever you do, you should feel the ownership of that body of work. You should feel the ownership of the task at hand. It could be an extremely menial task or it could be an extremely important task. The importance level of a task is completely in our minds. It is nowhere written that a certain task is more important than others. Completely in our minds. Give every task that you want to take on the same level of passionate commitment that you would do to every other task. Passion for the profession is the single biggest reason people succeed. Understand the intersections between these 5 things. We'll come to that in a bit. But you see how if you are passionate about your profession, you will automatically know what you want to be 5-10 years later. You would automatically know what you want to be known for. From that comes the learning, the patience, and the network. All of these would flow. And you would automatically also focus on the fundamentals. These are somewhat interrelated. And the most important part that drives this whole, this whole engine, the first 4 are like bogies, but the engine that drives the first 4 is passion for the profession. Develop a deep passion for the profession. It doesn't matter what profession you pick. If you are passionate about your profession, you will be the best at that profession and you will be paid handsomely vis-a-vis that profession. You would be among the best remunerated, you would be among the most respected in that profession. This idea of being passionate about what you do, wanting to continually learn so you can be good at the profession, is what actually makes value for society. Okay, so let's recap the 5 things. Then we will take a shot at understanding how each of these 5 things applies to various pursuits. Okay, so let's just quickly recap the 5 things. First, continued learning. Second, patience. Third, focus on fundamentals. Fourth, build a network. Fifth, be passionate. If you do all these 5, I can assure you that on a long marathon run, which is a career, you will be absolutely happy, successful, and well rewarded. I want to say one last thing about how to get rich. I know a thing or two, having worked with hundreds of individuals who were IIT Madras alumni, who were successful in their own right, who have gone on to acquire a certain body of wealth, body of knowledge, in many cases both. And I want to tell you what it takes in this day and age to become rich. Let me start by telling you what it does not take. It does not start by optimizing or maximizing your package. We are all in the frame of mind of asking, what is the package? This is usually a question that first year graduates, fresh graduates, or 2 years out, 3 years out, 10 years out, sort of ask themselves. It's a good question to ask, nothing wrong with the question itself, but the emphasis behind the question, as though a bigger package will lead me to more wealth, is actually misplaced. When I look at IIT Madras alumni and see who are the top 50 most successful alumni, you can define success in any which way you want to define. Who are the top 50 most impact creating alumni? Let me assure you on one thing, the vast majority of them, over 95% of them, were employers. They created jobs, they took risks, they made wealth for themselves and others. That is the class of people that gets rewarded the highest in our society today. People who take risk with their talent, with the knowledge that they already have. All of the others, a small fraction of the employees go on to do well, but the overwhelming fraction of employers, job creators, go on to do much, much better for themselves than anybody that works for someone else. This is the one central message I want to leave all the young men and women listening to this conversation with. That risk taking at a very early young age is absolutely a great thing to experience. Do it for 2 or 3 years. You define what risk taking is in your own way or fashion, and take a chance early on in your life. If not to really succeed and make wealth, but to feel what risk taking feels like. Once you do that, you can, things don't work out, you can go back, get another job, try that out for some time. But after you have some experience, you would not have forgotten how risk taking felt. When you have the body of knowledge under your belt and an understanding of risk taking, trust me, you are absolutely ripe to create value for society through a startup. Make this a part of your plan. Think of experiencing risk taking early on, either by doing something on your own or working in a small group that is already just started up. That's also a good way to feel risk taking. Then learn something very deep, like we said, all the corner cases understood. Now in that profession, in that sphere of activity, you are ready to solve a problem. Startups are all about solving a problem, solving a pain point, and offering a solution that didn't exist before. Think of what you can do at that point, once you've understood the corner cases, to the point where you now can bring all of that knowledge with the memory of what it felt like to take risk with your own time and life. You are much better off to do a startup and create value for everyone around you. Now let's come to our new year. Happy New Year 2026 one more time. I want you to think of making your new year resolutions, bearing these last few things that we've alluded to in this conversation. Okay, first, make a commitment, make a resolution to start building your network. Second resolution I would strongly recommend: go back to some undergraduate textbook in your current profession and develop a stronger sense of fundamentals. Make sure your fundamentals are with you, however old you are or however young you are. Make an effort to develop a deep passion for your profession. Make a commitment to lifelong learning. Open NPTEL or one of the online platforms, start learning something new, whether it is slightly peripheral to your current profession or central. I will leave it to you. But open NPTEL, make a commitment to go register for one new course today that will help you along this lifelong learning journey. And the last last resolution, and the easiest resolution really to keep to yourself, is to be committed to the effort that you've taken on for yourself. Be committed. Let's say for some short span of time, 6 months, I'm not going to keep on vacillating and wavering about whether I'm doing the right thing, wrong thing. Don't worry about it. Whatever you are doing at that point of time, do it with the best of passion. Go like a bull in a china shop with your horns locked down, and at some later point of time, take stock. You would not have lost one bit by doing that. You would have learned something about how to be passionate about something, and at the same time, you would have probably developed a body of knowledge that is harder to acquire otherwise. Nothing wrong in pivoting, but when you pivot, don't keep on pivoting. Pivot around to something that you like and be passionate about it for a reasonably long duration of time. This will get you to a much better position later on than anything else. 2025 has been a very exciting year for us here at the Professor Mahesh podcast. And looking at 2026, I can promise you we are all excited again with our eyes wide open. In the year 2025, in the first 7 months of this initiative, we've had a chance to take a deep dive into various strands of engineering, sciences, and even the arts to some small extent. Come 2026, we have a lot of exciting plans to talk informed career decision making in streams beyond science, technology, and engineering. I want to see if we can talk to the best of the legal community, the best of the management community, the best of the medical community, the best of every stream of activity in society and every profession out there, to help bring a body of knowledge together that all of you can use in your own decision making. And so we are all excited about this year ahead, this 2026. I look forward to making the next 50 episodes bearing the date 2026. And we look forward to having these episodes shaped by your comments, your thoughts. So in the comment section of this video, put down your thoughts on what you want to hear in the year 2026. What strands of professions are you most interested in hearing about? And we would make every effort to bring the best of people of those professions to talk to you about what's exciting in their respective professions. I hope these messages mean something to you, and I hope these messages will resonate this new year, and your new year resolutions will be in line with all of these thoughts and help you make more informed career decisions as we go along. Happy New Year once again. Until we meet again, Be well, do good, and keep in touch. Goodbye.